More of the same. Once again, Penn State loses to Ohio State, has not won against the Buckeyes since 2016. My name is Zach Seyko. I'm the host of Locked On Nittany Lions. He is Dylan Callaghan-Croley, Penn State Rivals editor. He is Zane Brancefield, associate producer to the podcast. And thanks for checking out this brief post-game recap. I was kind of expecting this. Ohio State is a top 5 team, a top 5 defense by all metrics, team stats, analytics, you name it. This Buckeyes team is elite, and Penn State is closer, but they still feel further away. However, this does not change my expectations for this team. This team can go 11-1. This team can still make the college football playoff, and I feel like the instant reaction from the fans and people, the frustration is warranted. Nothing has changed. James Franklin has been here for over a decade, and Ohio State continues to beat Ohio State, or continues to beat Penn State year in and year out. Penn State continues to beat Penn State, honestly, when it comes to these kinds of games. So, gentlemen, I don't sell out on Penn State. They need to buck this trend. They need to finish 11-1. When they finish 11-1, then they host a college football game. So this season is still well in front of them, but if they spiral out of control, finish 10-2, don't break that stereotype, then nothing changes, and that's when the conversation gets a little more serious from my point of view. Dylan?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we're standing in the end zone in which Penn State's
the offense did not make it here.
It kind of lived and died today. I mean, very exact spot behind you is where Bonison made that interception.
Incredible interception. That's an SC top 10 play. Good for him.
15 yards that way is where Penn State failed to get in from the 3-yard line. And I mean, those are the 2 drives that you're going to come back to if you're a Penn State fan or Penn State, and you're going to continuously as the reason that Penn State lost this game on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Penn State fan, obviously the frustrations are very high after this game. We heard a fan say expletive "you" to James Franklin as he came off.
Which time?
Many times.
Yeah.
But specifically, James Franklin was walking off the field. A fan said, dropped the F-bomb and said, that to him, and Franklin had a response to him. Fan walked away. It was an appropriate response.
I thought James Franklin and the team for the honestly what surprised me through all of this was when the team. Here was the interaction that actually had me in shock. And Zane, you can speak to this too because we were witnessing it simultaneously. Was when the team had lined up. I can't speak on behalf of the student section whether they were booing the team as a whole, booing James Franklin, but they were boos directed at this group of players and the coaching staff when they stood here to sing the alma mater. And Zane, we saw the student section, that was loud. That was a direct boo. There was no hesitation. And then the players, about little over halfway through the alma mater, just walked into the tunnel, put their heads down, and walked through the tunnel. I think about the implications that has on recruiting. I mean, a loss is going to have implications on the recruiting as well. But Zane, I don't know, the post-game reaction, just, I honestly, it's tough to put into words here. Just, if things are boiling over. Things are boiling over.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true. It's hard to put it into words, but you just feel for the players. They come out here, they have passionate fans who cheer them on, but Penn State also, because they're so passionate, they're hard on the players as well at the same time. So if you want passionate fans, you get both sides of it. You don't get all the good. So it's tough. You watch these players who are out here, they give it their all, they want to win. Like Franklin said, they probably wanted it more than what the fans did. And they're standing there singing the alma mater, and you see them look down and they pick up their helmets and just walk away. And the other players are like, where are you guys going? And they just shake their heads and keep walking. It's just, you feel for them in those moments, and you know they wanted to win. There's not much they can do. Like, the game is over. The season is ahead of them. The season is still ahead of Penn State. They have a lot to look forward to. Like you said, going 11-1. Franklin,
it's doable. It's very doable.
And Franklin said in the press conference, a lot of teams would die to be 11-1. It's true. Like, Penn State fans get upset, but it is a very true statement. Like, going 11-1 is nothing to be ashamed about. You're going to make the playoffs now. It's a 12-team format. And honestly, I think it was good for Penn State to lose now versus later, because now they have games to bounce back on. It's not single elimination like it is in the playoffs.
Yeah, if this was the 4-team playoff, Dylan, I think things are a lot more consequential here. But when you look at it, maybe Penn State viewed this game a little more like safe. I asked Tyler Warren that specifically. Was there a sense of safety that you could make a mistake, that you could drop this game and be okay? I'm not saying that Penn State came in with this like, well, we can lose, but at the same time, almost subconsciously, in years past, you had to win this game.
Yeah.
They didn't, but they had to. This time around, you don't have to, and that's why I'm not saying my expectations haven't changed. At the beginning of the season, Ohio State is better on paper. They're still better to this point, even though the record was different. They had the one loss, but it was a 1-point loss to Oregon. So Penn State closed the gap because, as you notice in 2023, Penn State loses 20-12, but they're clearly out of the game in the fourth quarter. Penn State is down 20-13, and they're at the goal line twice and can't punch it in. So that's how close they are to Ohio State. They should have won this game. They could have won this game, but they didn't, and that's the margin of error. They missed 2 goal-to-go opportunities, and elite teams convert, but Penn State's not an elite team at this point. They're great. I think they're a very good team. They're a top 10 team.
They're a great team. I don't know if they're ever going to be elite. And
Ohio State's elite.
And, you know, a couple things on the booing situation. I believe that's 100% at James Franklin. As soon as they said James Franklin's name, the boos rained down. So I think it was more at Franklin than the players. But yeah, I mean, grand scheme thing. Penn State season is alive. It is. 11-1 is very much likely at this point in time. 11-1 is very much likely. 2 losses would be a disaster. If they drop another one here, it's, you know, there's a lot of strong conversation that has to be held. But
that's just it.
At the end of the day, I think it's a fair sentiment. I think some of the sentiment I've seen from the fans online is like, yeah, we're gonna make the playoffs. That's great, but if we continuously, not saying from a fan's perspective, we Penn State keep coming up short in these big games, what's the point of making the playoffs if they can't get over the hump?
So what? I mean, a national championship obviously fixes that. I am not trying to beat that drum yet, but Penn State, I think, is still in the conversation when it comes to, you can host a college football playoff game. They're still better than a majority of teams that will make it. When I look at Ohio State, obviously now, and Georgia and Texas, and maybe a couple other teams that I'm blanking at the moment, but Penn State is certainly in that top 6 range where if you get a couple of favorable matchups, Penn State could hypothetically find itself in the semifinal. There are obviously some severe mismatches like a Georgia, like an Ohio State, but still they are so close. A couple calls go their way, that fumble, not fumble from Quinshon Judkins, or if they just convert inside the 5-yard line. They made it here twice. They made it to this part of the end zone twice, and they could not score. That's not an excuse, but that's to kind of reframe it and say Penn State is this close. And that's why I don't want people to sell out on this season. 11-1 is real. A college football playoff win, 2 wins, multiple victories in the playoffs is a very real possibility and something that I think Penn State can still be better. These are 2 new coordinators. Andy Kotelnicki is still trying to figure out his offense, and Tom Allen's still trying to figure out his defense. And I know we're halfway through the season, but Penn State still has a lot to learn about itself, and you will through these final 5 games. The best version of this Penn State football team is at the end of the regular season going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, every team gets better as you go forward. It's just a matter of how you bounce back from every win, every loss, push forward. Penn State's season is still very much up to them. Whatever they can put in, whatever they can bounce back from this Ohio State game, that's what they're going to get. Like you said, very easily can they go in, win a couple games in the playoff game, the playoffs. Penn State fans should be looking at that. They should be looking at the positives. They played better against Ohio State this year than they have in the past. They have the playoffs to go to. The season is not over. It's not all lost hope. You can still have a successful season, maybe make a deep run in the playoffs, and maybe go for a championship. But Penn State fans need to keep their heads up and look at what they did accomplish today, and that's scoring more points this year than what they did last year.
Well, that's the thing, though. The offense actually didn't score any points today. I think as the team,
touchdown.
they scored. Yeah, they kicked field goals, but they didn't score a touchdown. The defense actually contributed 7 points by itself in back-to-back weeks. And that's the difference here. Penn State is a top 10 team in all of its categories, offensively, defensively. Ohio State is a top 5 team in all of its categories, offensively and defensively. So that's what we're measuring here. I think that's where we can wrap it up. These are just some general thoughts. I'll talk about it live. Dylan's going to have thoughts on it on Penn State rivals. Zane's going to share more of his thoughts as well. Penn State is in a position to continue its season, finish strong. Ohio State is a good measuring stick. It's a good barometer, and it told us that, hey, Penn State still has a little bit of a ways to go. The frustration is warranted, but don't sell out on the season. They finish 11-1. They host a college football playoff game. They win that opening round. I think people are going to forget about Ohio State in that moment. But if they spiral, like Dylan said, like I've admitted, different conversation. He is Dylan Callaghan-Croley over at Penn State Rivals, HappyValleyInsider.com. Zane Brancefield, associate producer to the podcast. My name is Zach Seyko. Thanks for checking out this instant recap of Penn State's loss to Ohio State. Final score, 20-13.